Hello and welcome to this special edition of Talk Time. My guest today is a highly decorated soldier, Lieutenant General Rana Pratap Kalita, who has just retired as the General Officer Commanding-in-Chief of the Army's Eastern Command. General Kalita, welcome to my show.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Pleasure is mine. 40 years in the Indian Army. What has been your experience? How do you like to describe it? I know it is extremely difficult to describe in a few words or few sentences the 40 years and the illustrious career that you had just had and completed with the Indian Army.
You know, I retired recently at the age of 60. So out of 60 years of my life, 40 years have been in uniform. And before that, 10 years in Sainik School, then National Defense Academy, and Indian Military Academy. So I went out of my hometown in 1973, that's 50 years back, as a 10 years old boy, with a lot of dreams in my eyes. And 50 years in uniform, you know, it becomes your second skin.
Second skin.
Yeah. So it's very difficult to express the emotions and the feelings to shed that uniform, which you have worn it with pride for all these years.
Yeah.
I think it's some sort of a mixed feeling. One, I was happy to be back home, you know, in Assam, amongst my relatives and friends. At the same time, I was sad that I have to say bye to that uniform, which I loved.
Now, how would you describe the transformation in the Indian Army? You know, 4 decades, you have seen it all actually. You have gone through most of the major events that the Indian Army participated in that this country saw in the last 40 years.
Yes, you see, all over the geopolitics have changed. Changing geopolitics means your situation in the neighborhood is also changing. The internal dynamics are also changing. Alongside that, there has been a lot of technological development which has been taking place over last 40 years.
Yeah.
So all these impact your method of war fighting as well. So the Indian Army, not only the Indian Army, the entire Indian Armed Forces and nation itself has undergone a huge transformation, because unless we keep pace with the changing times, will not be current and will not be able to fight the future conflict. So there has been transformational changes in the Indian Army, in the tactics, in the structures and the organizations, as also the type of weapons and equipments that we hold. That's an ongoing process because new technological development take place. So we're going for some new weapons and equipments. So we have seen the army evolve to a very, very efficient army as of now.
Now, there was a talk going on that, you know, we have to use a lot of technology in keeping with the times. Times are changing, and therefore the number of boots on the ground will have to go down. There was a thinking like that at some point in time. What is the situation now, according to you?
It's a very fine balance that has to be struck between the boots on ground and the technological development, how much you can optimize with the changes or the development in the technology.
Yeah.
But if you see, look at the recent Russia-Ukraine war, it amply proved that in spite of the technological development that are taking place, the boots on ground definitely measures as one of the major victory markers. So though the technology can assist you to an extent, but ultimately the victory has to be obtained by the boots on ground. But I would definitely say that there is a very, very fine balance which needs to be struck. So Indian Army in last about couple of years has gone in for some amount of optimization with the technological development, but still retaining the strength that is required.
If we talk about that, means from what I understand from what you just said, is that if you look at the Army's role in the future, I mean, it will be both a mix of boots on the ground as well as technology.
Absolutely.
Both.
Absolutely. Both.
You cannot do without the other.
You cannot do without the other because.
And now Now, see, you have been commanding the Eastern Frontier. You were the Eastern Army commander. My question is, okay, do you really think honestly that the border dispute between India and China is ever going to end? Will there be a peaceful resolution across the table of the India-China border dispute? What is your gut feeling?
You see, last year, I think, when Honorable Prime Minister Modi had made a mention about referring to the Russia-Ukraine war, that it's not the time for war. So I think it's not the time for war and conflict between nations as they prosper, as they develop. That's my personal opinion. So it's for the betterment of the humanity and as also progress of India as well as China and other neighboring countries, that all the disputes that we have, whether it is related to the boundary and the others, need to be resolved peacefully through dialogue. I think we need to be optimistic about resolution of the border dispute with China. Whether it happens or not, that only time can say. But having said that, we also need to ensure that we are prepared for all contingencies. 1962 was a debacle which has taught us a lot of lessons.
Yeah.
We have moved away from the 1962 war, and Indian Army has regained its strength as of now. So while we hope for peaceful resolution, we need to be prepared for the worst case scenario as well.
Now if I ask you, what has changed since 1962? Yes, lots have changed, but what are some of the 3 to 4 things that you'd like to highlight that have changed as far as the Indian military preparedness, their strength is concerned since 1962?
Firstly, the Indian Army's organizational structure have undergone a change. The Higher Defense Organization, which takes the key decisions and facilitates taking strategic level direction, giving strategic level directions to the armed forces, that has undergone a change. As also induction of new weapons and equipments have taken place, which has kept pace with the technological development. Apart from that, as a nation, I think we have gained politically and economically and emerged as a strong power within the Committee of Nations. So India's stature has undergone a change.
Now, you had said recently that India will take about 2 years to match the infrastructure that the Chinese have on their side. Do you think the infrastructure that the Chinese have been able to build in the Himalayan heights, do you think that is a big advantage for them? Or when you say that within 2 years India will match China, where are we lacking as of now?
See, we started late. I had mentioned this earlier as well in one of the interviews. China started infrastructure development in the Himalayas close to the border earlier than us. And that covered the entire area, right from eastern Ladakh to Arunachal Pradesh. So we lagged behind, but then in last about 10-12 years, rapid progress has been made. And the pace at which the infrastructure development is taking place, not only in eastern Ladakh, also in Sikkim and Arunachal Pradesh.
Yeah.
I'm sure in next few years, we'll be able to match, at least we'll be able to achieve the infrastructure that is required by the Indian Armed Forces for movement of their troops as also sidestepping of their troops.
So are you basically talking about the road network primarily?
It's a combination of, it's not only road network, it's a combination of, one is the road network which provides us the basic connectivity.
Accommodation.
Then the accommodation. Then we have the mobile or the data connectivity. Then we have the helipad constructions, some advanced landing ground constructions. So all these are included as part of the infrastructure development.
As you said, yes, we have to approach these border disputes through dialogue. That's the best way to resolve issues. Now, most analysts also say that a war between India and China is unlikely because market forces are much too big in both the countries to create some kind of an opinion against war. Do you agree that there is not going to be any war and the market forces are going to be the determining factor whether there will be a war or not?
That is one of the possibility, whether there is that primarily obviates the possibility of a full-scale conflict. However, a conflict at a lower spectrum of the war can happen at any point of time. What is we generally is termed as the gray zone warfare, which China has been resorting to all these years, and is carrying out that salami slicing. Slowly, he is creeping into our territory or the claimed territory and trying to occupy those territories without resorting to a full-scale conflict. So those sort of things may continue in future as well, whereas we may not see a full-scale conflict, but such smaller level actions, there is a high possibility.
Now, these days, I think, if I refer to that recent incident a couple of years ago in Tawang, where the Indian Army, thwarted that attempt by the Chinese to come inside, and they had to go back. Now, are we comfortable with our real-time intelligence? Are we getting cooperation from other countries? How are we doing it? How do we know in that Himalayan heights that the Chinese are gathering, 300, 400 people are gathering, they're trying to come towards our border and create some nuisance?
See, we have made huge progress as far as the surveillance is concerned. Though it is very important because of the nature of terrain and the geography, to be able to look across the line of actual control and be in picture of what exactly is happening, like you mentioned about concentration or build-up of 300-400 people. So I think we have made huge progress. We have adequate infrastructure in place, as also the requisite technology and the gadgetry, should I say, to ensure that we have some sort of visibility in our areas of interest.
Right. I will not ask much about the India-China. My last question on this aspect is that suppose there is a war. In the event of a war, which of the forces will come to play a dominant role in your view? Is it the men on the ground? Is it air power, or is it both?
You see, it's not going to be a single service warfare anymore. What we are progressing towards is a multi-domain warfare. It is not only the armed forces, it's the Indian Army as well as the Air Force. Everybody has to operate in a synergized manner. There is nobody who can dominate a particular, in case of any conflict. It is not only the Indian Armed Forces, it's the cyber domain, information warfare domain, in the domain of perception management, psychological warfare, everything. It's a multi-domain warfare now. So everything will come into play, and it has to be a whole of nation approach in case of any such future conflict.
I'll go for a break, but before that, General Kalita, see, we have China on this side, and we have Pakistan, which is also known for its hostility towards India. Now, my question is hypothetical. Is the Indian military establishment, how will they deal, should there be a two-pronged conflict, both on the Pakistan frontier and the Chinese frontier? Are we quite capable today of dealing with both fronts?
We are at the highest level cognizant of any possible collusivity between the Chinese as well as the Pakistanis because of the disputes which we have with both the countries.
Yes.
So there is a possibility of collusivity between both the countries. And in what form it manifests, that only time can tell. There are several contingencies which has been worked out, and the armed forces have got its preparations to be able to address any such contingencies.
Absolutely. On that rather comforting note, I am in conversation with Lieutenant General retired Rana Pratap Kalita. Don't go away. I'll be right back after this very short break. Welcome back. I am in conversation with Lieutenant General retired Rana Pratap Kalita, the former General Officer Commanding-in-Chief of the Army's Eastern Command. General Kalita, are there proxy wars going on in the northeast of India? We know proxy wars are all the time going on in the Pakistan frontier. They used to send mercenaries and so on, and militants and so on. What about northeast? There are some talk going on that what is happening in Manipur is actually some kind of a not so simple as we see from the surface.
You see, if you go back in times, historically, when the insurgency movement started in northeast, whether you call it Naga insurgency or Mizo insurgency, all these were in some form or other helped by some of the third country,
yes,
should I say. So some of our inimical elements were not very favorably inclined towards us, had been helping them in different forms. Initially, ideological moorings were being taught, some weapons and equipments or financial help was being provided, and in some cases they were trained,
yes,
and their training camps organized for these people. That has been going off and on, but in last about say 10 odd years, except for these camps of various insurgent groups which are existing in Myanmar, earlier in Bangladesh which were moved out, and even in Bhutan, Operation All Out cleared all those ULFA camps which are there in Bhutan. Otherwise in Myanmar, except for those existing camps, there is nothing else that has been taking place. Coming back to, that is historically I am saying, as far as the present Manipur situation is concerned, my personal opinion is in the initiation of the conflict, the turbulence at Manipur on 3rd of May, I don't think there was any foreign agency or anybody from outside influencing that initiation or triggering any initiation. But at a later point of time, as the situation got more and more disturbed, some people coming and giving some sort of a support or favoring that to be continued is a possibility. Can't be ruled out.
Now, in the last couple of days, there's been serial attacks by everybody wants to call them armed gunmen or armed miscreants. But the fact remains that there is an attack on the security forces, whether it is the Assam Rifles, BSF, or the Manipur Police, serially in the last couple of days. And last week, even this week, the army commander, the new army commander, was in Imphal. The corps commander was there. The DG Assam Rifles was there. They have talked with the civil society. Now, what's going on? And the chief minister is on record as having said that these are mercenaries from Myanmar. He is on record having said that. What do you think?
See, last week, 10 days, as you referred to, most of the violence have been taking place in the areas in and around More, that's in Technopole district. More, as you are aware, is on the Indo-Myanmar border.
Trading hub.
That has been traditionally the trading hub and the crossing points between India and Myanmar, and that's where the Asian highway also crosses over to Myanmar. So the Kuki, that's a dominant Kuki population which lives in More. The Meitei population which was there at the beginning of the conflict, they all had migrated and they had shifted to the valley. So there is a police presence there in More which was being opposed by the Kuki population. So that has been leading to sporadic violence in those areas. And in recent violence also there has been conflict between the security forces, which are generally led by the Manipur police and the special commanders who are stationed there in More, and the Kuki militants, armed miscreants as they are called. Whether they are from across the border or they are indigenous Kukis from living within More, it's a difficult question to answer because you can't really distinguish. But definitely some form of support in terms of weapons and all coming from across the border is a possibility.
Now, today, on Thursday, that is 11th of January, the Chief of Army Staff had a press conference in New Delhi. General Manoj Pandey said that the situation along the Indo-Myanmar border is a matter of concern to us. Now, he said that the militants who are based there are also under pressure, and following the heat within Myanmar, they must be crossing over into Indian territory and again engaging in trouble. Now, when he said that, when the chief says that the situation on the India-Myanmar border is a matter of concern, what are we to understand generally?
See, basic problem stems from the instability in Myanmar in areas which are close to the Indo-Myanmar border. So recently, in last about couple of months, there has been a lot of fighting between the Myanmar army and the opposing forces there, close to the borders opposite Myanmar and Mizoram, which has led to influx of people from these states into our areas. Not only influx of civilians, even Myanmar army people, when their army soldiers, when their posts have been overrun.
We have got a figure now that about 400.
Yeah, they had come and they were all sent back. So that definitely creates a problem, because in garb of all this instability, there is a possibility of armed miscreants who may also cross over and resort to violent activities within Manipur, exploiting the situation, what is happening, obtaining in Manipur as of now. So that's an area of concern. And coupled up, and alongside that, all these terrorist camps which are located close to the border, because of this fighting, so they are also under pressure, because that stability of existence of these camps has gone because of those fighting.
Yeah.
So they are also under pressure to shift out from those camps, and one of the options is to come inside Nagaland or Manipur or Mizoram, and then again create instability in those areas. So that's I think that is what the chief had meant when he had said that it's an area of concern.
What do you think of the ULFA independent? Only on 29th of December we had that accord with the ULFA, who this is the pro-talk ULFA, but they don't like to be called pro-talk, they like to be called ULFA. We had that accord agreement. So that has again raised questions whether the government will be able to clinch some kind of similar deal with the ULFA independent. But ULFA independent leader Paresh Barua, he has said that sovereignty has to be in the agenda and so on and so forth.
While I would agree with whatever has been stated about this understanding or the agreement which has been signed with the ULFA led by Arvinda Raskwa recently on 29th of December, as you mentioned, it's a landmark event because it moves towards, it's a progressive step which moves towards achievement of permanent peace and stability in the state of Assam, and looks at, aims to resolve the issue which has been festering for last about 30-40 years now. But it is also, in my personal opinion, it is also important for whatever remnants are there of ULFA-I led by Paresh Barua in the camps of Myanmar. It is important for them also come overboard, over ground, and come and join the discussion and the deliberation with the state government as also the central government, so that the fruits of peace and development can be enjoyed by everybody.
Right. That brings me to the question, if the government, whether it is the state, whether it is the center, is all the time willing to have political negotiations with any militant group, if they say that our doors are open for negotiations, don't you think, and rehabilitate the people who come out, don't you think that this is itself an incentive for newer militant groups to come? Can there be permanent peace? Who knows? Even as we are talking, some new militant small, it always starts small. So again, after a couple of years, we'll say, okay, we'll talk to you. So do you think there should be a moratorium on peace talks at some point of time?
No, new groups may come up, but I don't think they need to have some ideology. They need to have an issue based on which they want to take up arms or whatever aim, goals and objective they want to achieve. Having talked with anybody who have taken up arms against the state is a good process. That's a democratic process, I would say. So I won't favor any moratorium on any sort of democratic process that is taking place in the country.
Right. And finally, only for the lack of time, I wanted to have a longer conversation with you. Now, 40 years in the Indian Army, and last maybe less than a fortnight of civilian life where you attended several programs.
Yeah.
What is the difference? How are you feeling actually?
It's a good feeling actually. I've to be honest, to confess to you, the amount of respect which I've got after coming back to Assam is tremendous. You know, I'm quite humbled by the respect which I've got from the people of Assam wherever I have gone, and they've been very kind to invite me to attend various events. So it's really overwhelming, to tell you the truth. And what I can do is, whatever experience I have got of 40 years, I wish to share it with the new generation.
How do you plan to do it? I was coming to that.
Yeah, I'm now. My plan is to go out, reach out to the young population in schools and colleges, go and give talks to them, go and give motivating talks to them, and share my experiences with them. That's what I'm trying to do.
And that you are going to be based in Guwahati?
Yes, that's sure.
Okay, General Kalita, that is a nice thing to hear that you'll be based in Guwahati, because most people, after spending 3 decades, 4 decades in a certain position, they generally settle outside. You are among the few who have decided to settle in Guwahati. Thank you for that, and we'll have to have more conversations with you. Thank you very much for being on my show.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you.